So yeah, I wonder if, historically, these, you were saying that culture, these kind of very small communities and these close personal relationships. And I guess I'm wondering if, the inclusion of the internet in our modern age makes this sort of big constituency feel like a small community. And for that reason, it's even stickier to get out of because these are your friends. These are the people you spend time with, chatting. Maybe they understand you better than your family does or your friends do. You hate arguing about politics with your friends, but here are people you can.
Okay, we're going to our 3/8 brick scale. We're reading numbers off of this. Let's see. We got a ridge number here of 35. So let's start there. That looks like a good number. It's going to be pretty big. I'm going to have to cut that in half. Okay. 35 is right there. Let's be tidy. We're going to put it down low here.
We're going to kill all these people. We're just going to kill them all. It's going to be wonderful. But it was also world building, and people play fantasy games and they build worlds. This was world building in the United States. The weird thing about it was that the people that were driving it were probably driving it for money. It looks a lot like one of the biggest proponents of it. His father actually owned the site that most of the stuff was being posted on. He was driving the traffic.
This is our crossing section.
Jim and Ron Watkins,
Yeah, Watkins. Again, QAnon is also
18.
so much like a religion, and most religions are born as cults, and the cults are kind of weird, and often their leaders, they may be real visionaries, but often they're really flawed. And then if it manages to outlive the leader and outlive the strangeness of its origins and get big, it becomes an institution. And I don't think QAnon is going to make that leap. I think it's too of its time. It's too tied to Trump, but it's a basis.
Yeah. Okay. So the long.
2020, but something like.
No.
If Trump loses, if Trump wins.
Okay. Here's a building line. 24, 18.
I've always said, I've always assumed that it would come back in some kind of form because it's too good of a marketing tool. Here you have this thing that it's instantly recognizable. You've got brand recognition. It's going to drive politics, potentially even voting at this point. Because, when QAnon came around, Trump had already won the election. It wasn't invented to explain why he lost. Which I always
so let's look at our reference photo.
Sort of, I guess, brings up this idea that, and we talked about this sometimes on the show, the idea that...
Oh yeah, we can get a scale. Okay, so let's count or
bricks
on
this
side.
At least, even if they didn't read the drops, they were friendly to the theories that it was sort of shuffling around. They still needed it, even though their guy, they had won, essentially. Well, populism wins when people feel like they're losing. And so Trump has to lose. He has to win because he has to be Trump, and he has to be a winner, and he has to be the richest man in the world, the most powerful man in the world. But he also has to lose because I represent you, I'm you, and you, my friend, are a loser. They're shitting on you. They hate you. They have contempt for you. They're laughing at you. So QAnon is...
I need a square.
You're right. I mean, this
Here
is
we
a
go.
thing that just constantly
Now we're talking.
when I'm dealing with Trump stuff is, hey, you guys
I got a
won.
little bit of a
Where's
better
this coming from? You own the court.
section
You
up
have,
here.
They've impeached you twice, and you're still there. What is the problem? But you ask, like, what is the utility of it?
Almost.
You
Right
want to mobilize
there. Okay.
a population of people who feel like they're losing.
Now let's see if we can
And I
find
might
some
add,
bonds.
if
There we
you
go.
Don't mobilize them around this hatred,
There's
around
one.
these crazy theories, and around this hero worship of Trump. They might start joining unions. They might start, like the guys at Amazon in these places. They might start
start asking for, all of the protections that unions bought people. We have this long labor struggle in the United States, and there has been, I don't want to sound like a stereotypical leftist, but one of the things that's different now than used to be, besides the internet, is we have had a 50-year regime of neoliberalism that has rolled back a lot of things that made life easier for the working class. There's been a lot of technological displacement. A lot of people that worked with their hands can't make a good living working with
So
their
that's
hands
2.
anymore. But there's also been a rollback of a lot of protections.
Okay.
Yeah, in the book, you also discuss the financial benefits of promoting conspiracism for the promoters. Jake, could you take this passage too?
Stories about Planned Parenthood selling babies' corpses and public school teachers indoctrinating their students with atheism and critical race theory may not be true, but they can be relied on to raise a lot of money. Build a database of
That's 6.
dislikes, fears, and resentments are well known to you, and you can sell them just what they think they need. The miracle cures their doctors and big
Obviously, that's going to be 6. That's 6 brick.
The Fed and its fiat money can't be trusted. Survival gear and guns and ammo because liberals want to disarm them and leave them vulnerable to the urban gangs that are making inroads into the suburbs.
I mean, that's very true, but doesn't that essentially mean that the economic reality
4 to the window.
conspiracism be popular? I mean that, as long as
How many wide is our window?
For conspiracist thinking, there will always be people willing to supply it.
Well, Paul Krugman says that the Republican Party, the far right of the Republican
4 brick
Party,
wide there.
all these grifters. Now he wonders if that isn't the purpose of it.
And yeah, we're going to be symmetrical, so we're
Very liberal talk show guy on drive time in a big American city yesterday.
12.
His slogan is like proud to be woke or something. And while I was waiting to come on the air, I heard Steve Bannon selling
20 for
crypto
brick.
retirement futures package. And I was like, oh my god, you really can't escape this.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, they're also big on, the survival gear, the survival buckets, the buckets full of food, once everything really, once the shit hits the fan, as they say in the prepper community.
This isn't new either, and when crypto and stuff isn't new. In the 19th century, there was this whole rage for silver because when they remonetized gold after the Civil War, there was a deflation that made your debt much harder to pay off, and it was devastating for farmers. And farmers have always been devastated because farmers are always in debt. The way to make farming profitable is to make them really, really big, and corporations can make really big farms. Families
I'm going to reduce
and
that.
farming is a huge profitable sector of our economy now, and it employs
Let's
about
reduce it
22% of the
to
population.
On the show, we sometimes struggle with the question of whether conspiracist
12.
influencers are insincere grifters or true believers. This is very
Number
hard.
3
Kind of
gauge, I think.
cerebral, mind-reading
Yeah,
possible,
those
but
look like
on
thin
that
joints.
question, you
Number
write
3
this.
gauge.
Alex Jones and zealots like Mike Flynn and Mike Lindell
3 gauge, 12
Or
courses.
simply package it for others so they can harness it for their own purposes. It's one of those unanswerable chicken and egg questions, but for whatever it's worth, I still tend to believe it. You can't have winners without losers, and America has more than its share of both. The paranoid style is something for everyone who feels looked down on or marginalized or cheated out of what they believe should be theirs by right, or who has figured out a way to make money from people who think and feel that way.
Yeah, I want to get your thoughts on how I personally try to answer this question, and I actually think that, especially for people like Trump, they have a kind of utilitarian perspective when it comes to belief claims, and that it's almost useless to ask whether they sincerely believe in something because they don't believe in sincerity. Rather, it's that they think that if promoting a claim can be useful, then they, for all intents and purposes, believe it. They believe it with their body. If they think that performing as if they believe it is useful for them. So in that sense, I mean, they kind of do believe what they're saying, only because they know that the belief can be packaged for others in useful ways. So that's my attempt at splitting the difference in regards to that question. But I think that it's like I was, really interested in like questions of like epistemology and like how do you access real true claims out there in the world, independent of our experiences and stuff. But these people have never thought about those kinds of questions, I don't think. So it's like, yeah. So what do you think about that? I mean, just because I don't think it's like really an either or question. You're asking about whether or not they're drifters or true believers.
Well, again, Trump, I said I think he's a commie. One of the things I did when I was writing this book, I found online, I think it was evidence in one of the lawsuits, the book that they give to salespeople for Trump University. They weren't called salespeople, they were called instructors. And there's a line in it, it's like, look, you're selling feelings here. You're selling emotion. And like Scientology and all these other kind of scammy things, the deal isn't to sell you one course. The deal is to get you in a course, and when you're in it, you say, and if you want to know more, sign up for this course. And you raise the price higher and higher, and you get people paying more and more money. And who are the best closers in the sales world? You talk to people that sell used cars or something. They're people that they believe it themselves for as long as it takes to close the deal. I got ripped off when I bought a car once, and it was very painful and humiliating. And at the end of the book, I say, for anyone who's ever been lied to, you really feel this. And at one point, while I was being ripped off, I said to the guy, these numbers aren't adding up. And he looked at me and he said, Arthur, are you calling me a liar? Are you saying that I'm lying to you? And I was like, well, no, I wouldn't want to hurt your feelings like that. And then I walked out of the sales room. I'm like, he robbed me. But he had used his vulnerability. It was like he had gotten inside of me. It was so intimate, so long. It was
¿Dónde está?
It's just funny, but it felt like home. And so a lot of these people, like you said, it's not if they're sincere.
BR.
They don't believe in sincerity. They believe in closing. But there are some people that really are crazy that thrive in this world too. I spent a lot of time reading about and thinking about the Berkshires.
Courses 149.
And I read an authorized biography of Robert Welch, and I don't know, he was really nuts, but I think he believed a lot of this stuff. It was funny.
Oh, there's the good stuff.
Authorized biography proved every word of. There's stories about in his days as a candy maker.
Vertical, horizontal.
So driven.
Give me a pointer. We're looking up how long 24 brick. 24 brick and 23 joints. This is with what type of brick? Non-modular, which is probably what you're gonna have there. 24 brick and 23 joints. We have 16 foot 5 and 3/4. But I think he really was a believer. So yeah.
Some people, there's probably
final answer.
That
that's with 1/4 joints. Oh, okay. That's the smallest joint they register is 1/4. Okay. That's vertical brick. That's vertical brick for modular. Yeah, that's all we need out of here. Oh, well, we may need another wall, so we're going to keep it close by. I was pretty close. And by pretty close, I mean I was off by, looks like 8. I was off by a whole brick somehow in my math here from the scale to the table. We're going to go with the table. So 16 foot 5 and 3/4 is going to be our crossing section for the wing with the small bays, which is 35, but that's a roof measurement. We want a building line if we have it. For the small bay.
There are influencers, whether they're on Instagram or Facebook, social media, or they make YouTube videos, and they'll have, very normal content. They'll be talking about their family, they'll be talking about their kids.
Ew. Okay, it's called 38 on there as well. 38. 35. 38. Let's look at the photos now. Oh, this. This should be pretty easy to count to the middle off the photo here.
Or, whatever it is, they're subscribing to your Twitch channel, whatever it is, that even though there might be something like deep down that knows how you were before this and what you believed before this, you become a believer because you've seen how well it works for you. I wonder if there is some sort of coordination between the grift and the belief that the positive reinforcement that we get, when we say various things, if people then tend to go, oh, well, maybe I'm on the right track. This must be right because this is the thing that's bringing positivity into my life, whether it's, like you mentioned, community or actual, financial stability or gain.
Well,
I may have to try a better print or blow it up. I'm not able to read it on here too well.
Sell somebody else's book, but it's a great book.
No, it's great. Yeah, we've talked to her. She's fantastic.
And she spent a lot of time on that. If you believe in the idea that everything is a meritocracy, everything is the individual, you've given up on community, you've given up on society.
Yeah, I don't think we're in the same scale because this would be, that'd be a really wide window if that were the case. Oh yeah, that's clearly a smaller scale. All right. So, let me see if I can find some lines, lining.
They're 1,000th of a percent of the people in that space, but they're doing really well. And you also have to amp up your message to keep your status up there.
Oh, I think we got a lock. I think we got a lock here. Yep.
And so, if you start to get traction being extreme, then you have to get more extreme. Otherwise, somebody else comes in and disrupts you, and copies you. So yeah, it's I think that these things are related, and I think the instant gratification of the likes and the dislikes.
So we get 10.
We're in this disintermediated society.
That's got to be 4. They would make their windows symmetrical, surely.
He had to self-publish a lot of his stuff. He had to have meetings with people. He couldn't build up an internet audience of millions of people. If he tried to go on the Johnny Carson show, they would kick him off because he's nuts. He couldn't get a mass audience. Same thing, the hate groups that I studied. They would live in these compounds in the backwoods somewhere, and they have 17 members, and somebody would self-publish a book that kind of describes the guy that wrote the Turner Diaries. He was brilliant, probably insane person, but it was not big time. It was not big time, and if he had lived a little bit longer into the internet era, he might have had an Alex Jones-sized audience.
But their work does live on and is folded in.
Let me try this side. It might be.
Which is, I think
might be closer.
Most clear observation about.
Where'd that line go? Come on, give it to me.
Bring in all.
That's
different, all
pretty daggone close.
The one ring to rule them all. I mean, Travis has called it, the Big Tent conspiracy. And so, yes, it is fascinating because all of these guys who lived, before the time where they did have access to this wide audience, people now who are getting into conspiracies for the first time, and it's still happening. People are still, you look at them in 2020, even after January 6th, and their online presence is relatively unpolitical. And then, they get roped into the stolen election and the ballot mules and all of these theories, and they get in that way. And here is all of this old content, that they've never really heard about, that's there to
That reads 8
these new beliefs that they're sort of turning
to the
into their
door.
personality in a lot of ways. I mean, when you run into a conspiracy theorist out in the world, all they want to do is talk about conspiracy theories. I mean, this happened to me. I was in Solvay a couple of years ago. I was in the Christmas store at Solvay in Solvay. It's a Christmas ornament shop, and I was standing by the tree.
7.
The big sort of display tree and looking at some stuff, and there was another couple, and I think I mentioned something. I looked at one of the ornaments and I went, man, it was like $15 for an ornament. I don't know. And this guy who was standing, 2 feet away was like, oh yeah, well, Biden's America, inflation, and man, what they're really doing, and the stuff.
And then the door.
I had mentioned this one thing, and we were
That's 4 for sure.
Conversation about.
So yeah, same as the other side, of course. That would make sense. That's going to be 4, and then it's going to be mirrored on the opposite side. So we have 12, 16, 23, 30, 4,
it's not in every case,
42.
It's awfully common that caregivers are stealing from me.
Wow, you gotta love the symmetry.
The vulnerability.
42 wide that way, 24 wide this way. Keep it simple, right guys? Okay, so let's pull that out of the chart real quick so we have them both in real numbers. Then we can get our building line down. Back to our handy dandy 42 brick and 41 joints is 28 foot 10 and a quarter.
He's feeding on people's despair, and he's feeding it. And every time he gets up there and tells people how miserable they are, he's making it worse. And you can't reason with that. You just kind of have to. I don't know what.
That's the key.
In your book, you devote an entire chapter.
Okay, we now have 2 good numbers to work with. So let's go ahead and get those struck off on our new building line plan here for the T-wing with the dormer on either side, which is also the front entry. Yeah. So we're going to orient this to be looking the same way. We are going to...
After discussing your own chapter, you say the pace of change was extraordinary.
I think that's a 31 on there.
But for many Americans,
I'm going to go with 31. I think that's what I already struck on here. Let's make sure. We're in a 3/16 scale.
big urban centers they were supposed to be refugees from. And a lot of those big cities are nowhere near as big.
Let's go bigger.
Where their factories were relocated to.
I don't want to draw in on the green bar though.
Drug addiction is no longer just a problem of the inner cities or of the youth culture.
It'll just fit on the scale. It's the biggest house you can, big as you can get on the 3/8 scale. So let's go for it. 28, 29, 30, 31. Oh yeah, it'll just reach the end of the scale.
Rumors, opinions, and lies that are fine-tuned and micro-targeted to arouse their most primitive emotions.
Okay.
Really well said.
No, we're not gonna have enough room for anything else. Okay, we'll step back down.
Who could make that up? That's awful.
We don't need our building line to be that big.
I'm so
31 is right here.
I think we as leftists, and especially more centrist liberals or neoliberals, are afraid to criticize their own. But this idea of opinions and analysis and predictions as news, I think, has put the left in some ways.
Okay, let's strike our actual front building line here. There's no greebling, it's just straight through. It's a brick wall with brick wall with how many holes in it? 3, 6, 7. Brick wall with 7 holes in it.
Real work is analysis.
And it's
or saying, well, this could happen, or this trial could work out this way, or it could do this. And people, like you said, are so mad. They look at somebody like Donald Trump and they
okay, we're gonna worry about the bays later, because I'm gonna build those separately and then project them on here. I'll build them off of the elevations and then project them back to this.
After the 2020 election, I have to say that I have watched that space become gradually.
Okay, and then this is 24.
Because opinions are presented as news, and the fact that we're
No, this is.
It confirms a lot of what we already believe. So we're not necessarily willing to go, well, and it's very possible that somebody like this, somebody like Donald Trump, might not get in trouble for any of this.
Even smaller, still.
America, people in his class do not
28.
get punished in the same way that somebody like you or I does. And I wonder if that's something that you've seen or that you're concerned about, or because we watched QAnon. We watched QAnon from its very infant stages take shape, and some of the rhetoric, that I saw in those spaces.
Let's see what we end up with.
Even down to the point
15'9" is our crossing section on this, not 24. 15'9".
That are guided by this algorithm and feeding us this analysis of opinions is actually hurting the left in some ways as well when it comes to conspiratorial thinking.
I totally agree with you.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't think the left is as bad as the right.
Agreed. Yeah.
I mean, I watch MSNBC and I listen to them sometimes, and I say, stop sounding like Fox. Just stop personalizing everything. And if you talk to the people that are doing it, and I know this because I read interviews with them, they say we would love to cover other stuff. There's terrible things happening in the world that we need to cover, but our viewership drops when we do it. Right. Because they're counting. They have the Nielsen ratings or whatever they use on TV now, and when they stop talking about Trump, people get less angry. A lot of them wander off into the kitchen and make a drink or something and forget to come back.
Shout out, drink, and kitchen.
It's making us
That shit, I feel that shit.
And we should be angry and smart. I don't want people to stop being angry, but I want them to be smart. Yeah. And one of the benefits
28,
of getting people mad
10 foot, 28 foot, 10 and a quarter inches.
There was this beautiful period right after the 2020 election where there was this whole thing, this whole sort of celebration online. We never have to talk about Trump again. He's nothing. He's dead.
Is that the mail?
He was kicked off social media. If you wanted to put out any kind of statement, it had to be on this really kind of sad letterhead. It was like a photograph of a piece of paper that then got shared on the sites that he was banned from. There was this beautiful period where nobody was talking about it. It lasted about 2 weeks. And then afterwards, it was as if, you had mentioned before, sometimes how Trump would talk, and it would be as if Hillary Clinton was actually president or Obama was still president. And I really felt that from the sort of liberal sphere as well. For the last couple of years, it has felt almost like Trump is president because it's all we hear about and it's all we talk about. And I don't know, maybe it's just because we do this podcast and stuff and I'm just sort of sick of hearing it, but I agree that there is this kind of vested interest in keeping people mad. And I also agree that the left will never be, as bad as the right. I think the right is inherently more violent. There's more violence baked into that belief structure. There's also heavy religious beliefs that I think that, you know, the centrists and you know, even further left liberals don't have. But I'm always wary, you know, when you see this kind of conspiratorial, you know, this baking. How can I analyze this so I can sell my audience a narrative where our enemies
16'5" and 3/4.
That was in some ways the root of what
16
drove
foot.
to become as big as it did and lead us to something like January 6th is promising justice
Okay.
that never
So I do need to fix that.
We gotta be really careful about that.
I read a very interesting piece yesterday by Josh Marshall, Talking Points Memo website. He was looking at a survey of New Yorkers' perception of their quality of life, and not good. You know, not good compared to 2019. And he said, you know, part of what's going on
16
in the world,
and 6 basically, wherever that falls on here.
extrapolate from New York to the country at large, but for argument's sake, let's say you can. Said the pandemic was really bad. 1 million people died. The economy ran to a halt. Supply chains tanked afterwards. It created rampant inflation. There was this really polarizing election. There was all this
And
stuff happening.
yeah, since this is building line, let's go ahead and
Still going on. I mean,
tick
the
off
pandemic started
our
when Trump was president. It was basically ended
1 foot
as
thick
Biden
walls.
took office, but the repercussions are still being felt. Part of why conspiracy theory thrives is because things are sort of crappy, and people need a narrative to explain it. You know, probably part of the reason that Biden had so much trouble calming the country down was because he didn't go in for retribution. He said, I'm not going to talk about Trump. If he had taken a page out of Trump's book and tried to rouse his side, just the left. I mean, Biden is really, I think he's for normal people. And like, I'm the left, but I really want to be read. I don't think I'm going to get through to a single QAnon person, but I think there's a lot of people that have voted Republican.
And
that might want
let's
to hear what I'm saying.
open this
I'm
up.
not that untemperate, you know. I don't think my book is particularly partisan, but I want people to just.
Oh yeah, now the tectonics are pretty clear. They got a short stubby wall in between the bay.
Maybe that's too big an ask. I don't know.
It helps when you
Last thing I gotta say, Travis, sorry, before you get on to your next question, because I think, Arthur, you actually made me think of something that I hadn't really thought of before. You said,
Okay, now we gotta do the second wing.
that's undoubtedly true. And what I would
It's not centered.
is I think that math
Okay.
traumatized people.
It's offset by 4 feet on the building line here. So let's get that hard boundary in.
How that sort of group interacted with people online, I think was traumatizing for people as well. It makes total
Right
sense to me that
there.
you want to get
Yeah,
them back.
that's good.
Which is, I think this whole, the whole dark
And do we have a crossing section?
out of his eyes too, you know, we can do it.
18.
There's this element of, you know, you've been bullied for 4 years online, and all of a sudden, now
24
the
out.
bullies have lost, and oh boy, are you gonna stick it to them? I think that's a really, at least in sort of online communities,
24,
how much
huh?
that happens out
That's
in
a
the
big
real
long
world.
house.
I think in the real
It doesn't
world,
seem that big, does it?
you know, the third dimension, there's a lot more aggression coming
24.
from, you know, your MAGA person.
Am I on the right
liberal
scale?
than
Yep,
vice
I am.
versa. You know, in any situation I've ever been
And
in
then
where I've
18.
really been, you know, in the vicinity of somebody who's, you know, a hardcore Trump guy, I'm not trying to poke the bear. I'm not trying to get into an argument with them. I'm trying to keep things civil and move on, you know.
Now, the left eats its own. They don't go extreme.
Okay, and then as a checksum, this should be 9 over here.
So I'm gonna have just one more question for you. So in the book, you made a really interesting point about Trump's embrace of QAnon. Okay, this is a really interesting thing. I always wondered like how he'd react to it.
So we gotta stretch this to make it meet our eagle numbers here, which is fine. I'm okay with that because we were still playing around. We could have counted a brick wrong. We could have done a couple things. So I'll go with the building lines that are on the Eagle view for now, until we count bricks.
You write this.
Like so many
Yeah, that's a 2 foot difference in our checksum there. So let's go ahead and draw what it shows on the Eagle view. Separate. We'll let that read all of this.
And possibly even divinity. He may be raising the bar higher than he can reach. Once you declare yourself to be God, your disciples expect you to heal the sick and multiply.
Which that gives us a total
At least put Hillary Clinton in jail. They
of
may even want you to be martyred, so they can have the satisfaction of seeing you rise from the dead.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really considered that because like Trump's followers, especially his QAnon followers, are so thoroughly devoted to him, and it just seemed like
of 31.
there seemed downside to Trump, just sort of like winking and nodding to them at the very least.
Which there we are. Okay, so I need to go back and find 31 and see how many brick it is. I may have messed it on the brick count, which would have thrown it off. All right, so that is our building line, basically. And this is going to generate all of our larger floor plans and our elevations drawn. And then our detail sections. So eventually we'll get from a little sketch like that to something a lot more detailed like that.